mundo, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys a celebratory story about my mother, Maricela Gonzalez. My mother was brought up a little different from majority of kids her age. She was one of 10 brothers and sisters who grew up under the same roof in Tijuana, Mexico. My mother was taught from a very young age that you had to work hard if you wanted to make anything of yourself in life. She took it upon herself to take care of things she needed and always did her part in helping raise her younger siblings. At the age of 14, she discovered a whole new meaning to being independent. Living in Tijuana, Mexico with her father, mother, and 10 full-blooded brothers and sisters was not an easy upbringing, to say the least. With so many siblings in the house, personal responsibility was a must. If you didn't take care of yourself, nobody else would. My grandparents, as you can imagine, were both extremely busy with work and with trying to raise 11 children. They assigned personal duties and responsibilities to each child and expected them to get done in a timely manner. My mother learned what the meaning of hard work really was at a very young age. She didn't have the privilege of simply going to school and having her parents take care of everything for her. She went to school, worked at a nearby neighbor's house, and came home to help raise her brothers and sisters. When my mother was 14 years of age, my grandmother had decided that enough was enough. She was tired of struggling to try and make ends meet, and like hundreds of other people during this time, she decided to cross over to the United States in hopes of building a better life for herself and for her entire family. As expected, everyone crossing over had to show a valid proof of identity, being everyone's passport. In Mexico at this time, you were allowed to get a passport with your guardians if you were under the age of 14, and you were allowed to get one on your own if you were over the age of 14. When the day to cross over actually arrived, my mother realized that she was the only child out of all 11 that didn't have a passport. She didn't think much about it, though, because she was simply so overjoyed that she was going to start a whole new life in the United States. All of her brothers and sisters crossed over through the Mexico border just fine, but when her turn approached, not everything went as expected. Border Patrol told my mother and her parents that she would not be joining the rest of her family that day. She was the only one of 11 kids that was denied entrance into the United States. My grandmother figured that she was old enough to fend for herself and that if they didn't cross over right then and there, that the opportunity may never come. Again, after a short deliberation between my grandmother and my grandfather, the decision was made to leave my mother behind. My mother, her oldest sister Elena, and their father Miguel were the only ones that didn't agree with the decision. Tears were shed and short goodbyes were exchanged before my mother's family finally left her behind. At the age of 14, my mother lived on her own, worked, and went to school away from her entire family. Her neighbor, which was a close family friend, would come by every so often to check on her and make sure that everything was okay. But my mother was responsible of taking care of herself all on her own. She walked to school every morning and walked back every afternoon. She worked 5 days a week, helping prepare food for field workers at a lady's house a couple blocks down from where she lived. She fed herself or ate while at work when she could. She hand-washed all of her own laundry, ironed her own uniforms, studied and completed all of her homework all on her own. For about 7 months before my grandfather actually crossed over and dropped off one of my aunts, Lupe, to keep her company. Lupe, unfortunately, worked all day while my mother was in school, and my mother worked at night, so the fact that she was there made little or no difference to my mother. She was still very much on her own for several months to come. She had more responsibilities than most grown adults do at the age of 14. With no one to help her out, she turned to marriage as a way to better her situation. My mother has always attracted many different men throughout her lifetime. She is stunningly gorgeous, and men of all colors, shapes, and ages took notice. She met my father, Alberto Elizondo, when she was 19 years old with 2 children from her first marriage. My father, who is 15 years her senior, was a wealthy businessman at the time. He offered a better life for my mother and my older brother and sister. She was struggling to raise 2 kids on her own and fell in love with the fact that somebody actually cared for her and wanted to help her. My mother had never been offered help of any kind before. She was used to doing things for herself, so when my father came along, she thought all of her prayers had finally been answered. Unfortunately, my father had only provided help financially for her. He was a busy man and didn't really care much about my mother the way she had hoped. Their marriage also ultimately ended in divorce as well. By this time, my mother was a single mother of 3 by the age of 21. She worked hard and always did everything possible to never leave my brother, my sister, or me alone. She worked day and night to give us everything she never had growing up. We were always paid attention to, and we were always very well taken care of. She never skipped out on throwing any of us a single birthday, and she always made sure we had plenty of presents to open for every special occasion, not just Christmas like other parents did. She alone put together egg hunts for us around the house and even put money under our pillows for every tooth we lost. My sister and I were never caught without matching bows in our hair, and my brother was never seen without the newest pair of flashing light LA Gear shoes to play in. My brother, my sister, and I appreciate her so very much, and to this day I can't seem to understand how she managed to raise 3 young kids all on her own. She is an amazing and truly inspiring individual. She has taught us 3 so much about life without even trying, and this is why I chose to share a story about my mother, Maricela Gonzalez, with all of you today. Thank you.